Welcome to my dad's car. Enjoy!
Welcome to My Dad's Car, a podcast discussing our personal relationship with automotive nostalgia. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be about your dad's car. It can be your mum's, your grand's, your parents', guardians, or even a neighbour's. If it made an impression, let's talk about it. Hello, Sara. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're not too bad, yep.
Hi, Sara. How's it going?
Hello, John. Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. Any excuse to talk about my dad and cars.
Yes, looking forward to it. So, quick introduction. Sara, John, Sara. I met Sara through Porsches, wasn't it, at Brookspeed?
Yeah.
You kind of got in touch with us, but it turns out we kind of know a few other people through sort of other routes as well. So,
yeah.
Cool. So, let's jump in. Tell us about your earliest motoring memories.
I grew up with a car and motorbike mad dad. So I was always around cars or bikes or bicycles. Dad was an engineer, so he loved fixing things. I just always was around them. He'd always be Saturdays or Sundays on the drive fixing something.
Did you fix stuff on the drive with him? You kind of joined in, or?
He taught me to change a wheel and to check my oil, to check my water. So I would get involved, yeah.
Wonderful. And what was the first car you remember him having?
The first car was probably the Vauxhall Cavalier.
Okay.
In a very, very pale blue.
Oh.
And I was talking to my sister this morning, telling her that I was coming on here. And she said, she gave me a memory that I'd forgotten, but Dad hated it, absolutely hated that car. And so when he worked in London and he used to drive it to the train station, to catch the train to London, and he used to leave the windows open and the car unlocked to see if anyone would steal it, but they never did.
Like dangling bait in the water, isn't it? Just waiting for a nibble. Yeah. Andy and I have got a bit of a sort of, it's not like a swear jar, but we do get quite a few Cavalier mentions, don't we, on this podcast? So
Cavaliers, and then we've got a bit of a tally on BXs as well.
Yes. Yeah, so another pound in the jar today. That's good, Sara. Good start.
I think then the next car after that was the Talbot Alpine.
Yep.
In a dark blue colour. I remember it being very comfy and Dad being quite fond of it. And he had that for quite some time as well.
So you showed us a picture that he painted and it had that car in it. So he must have, obviously quite liked it to immortalise it in his painting.
Yeah. So
was he always going to work on the train?
Yeah.
So he'd buy that car, that would go to the station then?
Yeah. Yeah, so he worked in London. He was, Dad was an interesting guy, actually. He grew up in London with nothing, literally nothing. He was born during the war, and he got a scholarship to go to a private school in London.
Wow.
He did very well and got a job at the Royal Mint. And then from there, he completed 2 engineering degrees, and he was handpicked for a job with the Metropolitan Police, as a civil servant.
Okay.
I later found out in life that basically I always used to think he was James Bond, but he wasn't. We found out later in life that he was actually Q. He was head of engineering for the Met.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
In the late 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, until he retired at 52. And that was when, 1997, that was when computers came in, and Dad was given a great offer to leave because he just didn't want to get involved with computers. He was hands-on engineering. He couldn't tell me much about his job, but he did tell me that he designed where the guns went in the cars, and he worked with transport for quite some time.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he didn't have any Aston Martins like James Bond, but he did have an unmarked Mini, and he used to drive that around London.
Did it drop oil everywhere?
Probably. They always do, don't they?
That's what the Cavalier did as well, probably.
Yeah. The drive at home was always covered in oil. And there was always a tray under a car. One little story that Dad did tell me once, a taxi driver cut him up in London in his unmarked Mini, and it infuriated him. So he cut him up and stopped him, and then flashed his V5, which said Metropolitan Police, at this cab driver, who profusely apologised. But he used to travel around London in this Mini. He had access to anywhere in London, and he worked at Old Scotland Yard, New Scotland Yard, a building called Tintagel House, and he had access to anywhere. He was allowed to use the chief inspector's toilet.
Blimey.
Which was a very, very important thing, apparently. Only the chief inspector could use his toilet, but my dad, Brian, was allowed to use it. And then he handpicked 7 people under him, and then they had their teams under them. So he was full on engineering. He designed if you go into a police station and there's a desk and you'll see that it's high and rounded. Well, they used to be low and flat, and people could jump across them at the desk sergeant. So Dad created them to be high and round, and they're in police stations now.
Wow.
I try not to visit police stations. That's just one of my rules.
Yeah. But when Dad retired, we got a pub together for 5 years, and so we had to go and get our personal licences, and so we had to go in the police station to get that. And that's when Dad told me about the desk. He said, "You see that desk?" and told me the story.
Oh, fantastic! What, his work was secretive, was it? That was the reason he couldn't tell you?
Yeah, I hardly knew anything really, up until probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. And the funny thing was, he would never tell me anything. And I went away for a weekend, and my husband, when I got back, my husband said to me, "I know what your dad did." And I said, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "He's told me." I said, "How? I can't believe it. He's told you and not me. All these years I've been asking him." And that's when he said, I said, don't tell me, because in my mind he's James Bond. And he went, "No, he's better than that. He was Q."
That's amazing. You could have said he was like Mr. Blobby or something all those years ago in the suit. I feel like you're going to have to be quite clever on the edit on this one, Andy, because there's probably quite a lot of info that Sarah's divulged that
No.
we might get shut down or something. Yeah.
Any Secrets Acts we've got to sign?
Yeah.
No. Dad obviously did sign the Secrets Act, but no. Everything that I've said is fine, and I tell everyone, and that's probably why he never told me what he did. Because I tell everyone. But unfortunately, I lost Dad in 2021, so yeah, that's fine. I can tell everyone everything now.
So he went from the Talbot. Did you grow up with your mum, and was she driving as well, or?
No. Mum and Dad were separated, and I was with my dad every weekend. And after the Talbot, I think there was a Renault 12 in there.
Okay.
Then the Volvo period of his life came. Volvo after Volvo after Volvo, and they're like tanks. Brilliant cars, he used to say. We must have had 5, 6 340s, 740 Estate. Great cars, and lasted for a long time, but he always had 2 at once.
Okay.
Always had 2. So if he saw one that was a cheap price, he'd get it just in case.
Like a backup, yeah.
Yeah, so we always had 2.
Yeah.
That's like me. I've got 2 lawnmowers just in case.
Yeah. And then when one died, he could either take parts off of the other one or, swap over to that one and get rid of the new one. But there was always 2.
That answers my question. I was going to ask whether he went to a dealership and bought it new or whatever, but it sounds like he was buying a second-hand car and then...
Yeah. My dad never, ever bought anything new. Nothing.
Those old Volvos, the 740s, they had quite a lot of groundbreaking tech on them, didn't they? Like safety-wise, from memory. Like the SIPs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess a car like that does go hand in hand with an engineer, really.
Yeah, very strong cars. Yeah, he loved them. He loved how they felt safe, and especially that they had room, hatchbacks, and, you could chuck bicycles or anything in it.
Mm.
Would he go for a particular colour? Did he favour a blue car, or was it...
Oh, dark blue. Blue was his favourite colour, or those burgundy colours. But it was burgundy because I don't think he had a choice, because there were a lot of burgundy Volvos around back then. But he did like a dark blue car. Yeah.
And then inside, leather or velour? Or...
Yeah, like velour. Yeah, all that itchy material. I remember all the seats being itchy. I have to say the best car inside that Dad ever had was a Austin Princess.
Okay.
Ooh.
And he used to drive me down to Herne Bay every summer. We'd have a holiday in Herne Bay in Kent. And I would sleep on the back seat, and I was only young, and it was like a sofa, and it was all soft on the back, a massive back seat. And we used to shove everything in it and drive down to Herne Bay every year.
Lovely. Have you got any siblings at all, Sarah?
Yeah, I've got a sister, but she's 10 years older than me. So she'd sort of gone off to university and, left really.
So when you were in the car, did he have the radio on? Was he a smoker?
No, Dad wasn't a smoker, never smoked, and hardly drunk. He did have music on. My dad was a huge music fan. So my biggest memories of my dad, Brian, was the Eagles or Linda Ronstadt.
Okay.
Or Fleetwood Mac. He was a massive music fan. He'd listen to music all the time.
In terms of where his cars went after kind of the Volvos and the Talbot, obviously you said that when he left his job, it was because tech was coming in.
Yeah.
Does that mean that with newer cars, he was kind of more, I don't want to get involved with that because they're too techy, I want to stick with the old stuff?
Yeah. He knew what to do with the old cars. He could fix them. He could, if something went wrong, he could fix them himself. So electrics and the newer stuff, he wasn't into that at all. He liked to, undo 6 bolts and get the engine out and fix everything himself, really. My dad always used everything up until it died. So he didn't sell any of those cars. He kept them until they went to the scrap heap. He would fix everything, every last bit on it, and until it was the end of its life. That's
kind of the opposite of what's happening now, isn't it, really, with cars? That's a shame.
Yeah. He was like that with everything, I suppose, though, clothes and everything. He didn't buy much at all, really. He used everything till, I think it was just growing up in the war, during the war, and that generation, really, used everything, till the end of life and then would throw it away. Whereas these days, we don't fix anything, really, do we? Just buy new. And
so does that mean you had some memorable breakdowns as well? If there was stuff kind of going wrong and he'd just keep patching it together, I'm picturing you stranded on the side of country roads. And
yeah, there were many breakdowns, but there was no recovery service. You'd phone a mate and they'd come and tow you.
Okay.
Or Dad would fix it or change the wheel. Or
the RAC's cheating, obviously.
Yeah. And Dad wouldn't pay for the RAC either. He wouldn't have paid for that. He was quite tight on money, my dad.
Did he get involved driving overseas? Did he ever do kind of France or anything like that?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't really have any holidays overseas. No, he was a wonderful man. He just looked after me, really, when I was young, and would take me away every summer, and that was his holiday off work. We'd go to Kent, and no, he didn't really go abroad. He did every now and then, but not really, not a lot. Yeah.
Do you think there are any cars that you would like to have yourself that Dad had? If you could choose one, maybe, that you'd sort of think, oh, that would be nice to sort of walk down memory lane and...
Yeah, I did actually see a Austin Princess the other month at a car show, and it was a lot smaller than I remember. I was obviously tiny back then, so it was a massive car, but I just don't think I could own one, no. And I'm very German with my cars, whereas Dad wasn't German until his last car. And I convinced him to buy a Golf after his last Volvo died. And he said, oh, I wish I'd got one of these earlier. It was a Mark III diesel.
Okay.
So, he said, I wish I'd got one of these earlier because they're really, really solid, really good.
Converted.
Yeah, I finally converted him German.
Was the Golf a similar story where he'd just kind of patch that up and keep it going, or was he...
Yeah, I think it should have gone to the scrap heap way before it did, actually. And even in his last sort of 6 months of his life, he couldn't drive, but he wouldn't let go of it. It sat on the drive. Even though he couldn't drive it, he just liked to look at it, really. We just like to have a car to look at, and motorbikes. He loved motorbikes too.
I don't know a lot about motorbikes, but
no, me neither.
Was he riding those as well?
Yeah, he had old motorbikes. BSA Bantams, Triumph Bonneville. He built a Triumph Bonneville.
Okay.
Built it himself, mostly in the kitchen.
Of course.
Being a single man, he didn't have a wife to tell him off. Oh.
Yeah.
Could do what you liked.
Have you ever got involved in bikes yourself, Sarah?
No, I've always been into cars, but not bikes. No.
4 wheels. What do you drive? Something German, presumably.
Yeah, I have quite a few German cars. I drive an Audi Q3 daily, but I have a VW Beetle 1966.
Nice.
I have a Porsche Cayman S. I have a Mini Clubman Saloon automatic. We've got 3 or 4 Mark 1 Golfs. We've got early A-Reg Mark 2 Golf. We've got a Mark 1 Scirocco, a Mark 2 Scirocco.
Wow, goodness me. Do you live on a dealership?
We just sold our 1970 camper van. Lovely, but sold it to a friend. It just wasn't getting used. And I think we might have to get rid of a few more.
I was going to say, do you actually get to use them all, like here and there for shows, or no?
No. We've actually just got a show car as well. We've got a Porsche 924, which is immaculate. It's just having a few bits done to it at the moment. The servo needed replacing. So that's going to be the show car. The Beetle hasn't made it out of the garage in the last 2 years, only because the Clubman came along. And it's great fun. And you can only drive one car at a time, can't you? And so when the Clubman came along, unfortunately, the Beetle just stayed in the garage.
So were any of those cars inspired by friends or memories or anything? It was just a case you just liked them?
Well, my first job was in the motor trade. And I worked for AFN, Audi and Porsche in Guildford. So German cars, I just fell in love with them. And then I just really liked, it was nothing to do with Dad, really.
Okay.
Those types, those makes and models, it was nothing to do with Dad, unfortunately. He liked them, though. He was keen on them when I got them, but it's not something that he would own himself. Not strong enough.
So if we expand a little bit beyond your dad, did your mum drive and maybe your sister drove as well? Or
My sister had a Citroen 2CV.
Okay.
I remember her driving that. I have a fond memory of my sister and I driving with the roof down, rolled back, and it's starting to snow.
Yeah.
Us having to stop and roll the roof back up again in the snow.
That's quite the climate change.
Yeah.
If you'd sit out on a summer's day and...
Yeah, but the thing is, she'd not had it long, and she was showing it off to me. Come on, let's go out in it. And it was winter, and I said, put the roof down. So we did, but then it started to snow.
Can't imagine that's the sort of thing the 2CV would get on with too well either. Bit of snow.
No.
Very narrow wheels, though. That's quite good for snow.
Very true, yeah.
My sister was telling me earlier that when they went to collect the 2CV, they had to go down to Bournemouth, her and Dad, and it had a really strange gear stick, and they couldn't get it higher than second gear. So they drove second gear all the way home from Bournemouth to Alton in Hampshire.
Wow. I think they're in the dashboard, aren't they, the gears on 2CV? I think. I've never driven one, but just as a memory.
Yeah, they're up high, aren't they? Yeah.
It's a very French thing to do, isn't it? Pop it in the dashboard. Yeah.
Yeah, then they'll give you a steering wheel that doesn't turn and all that.
Yeah. I know what would be funny. Why don't we?
After a couple of midday glasses of wine.
Yeah, a long lunch.
Yeah. Every day's a Friday afternoon at the Citroen factory. So your dad never sold a car?
No.
They all just went to the scrapyard?
Yeah.
Did you ever get involved on the purchasing of the cars, Sarah?
Yeah, I'd go along with him because I was with him every single weekend growing up. I'd have to go with him.
Oh, okay.
So, if he went to look at a car, I'd have to go with him and go and have a look at it as well.
And where was he finding these cars? Just in the free ads?
In the paper. Yeah, in the paper. Yeah, back then there was no social media or websites.
Of course.
So it was in the local paper.
You said he was quite thrifty. Would he be a bit of a haggler?
Yeah.
With the seller? Yeah.
Yeah. Hit the nail on the head there, John. Yeah, he was. I mean, as I said, my dad never bought anything new. So we would go to jumble sales and car boot sales, and it was the same with cars. He wouldn't pay the price. He'd always, and if he really wanted it and the guy wouldn't drop in price, he wouldn't have it.
Walk away. Yeah.
He'd always want something off. Yeah. He actually once bought a car at a car boot sale.
A real car, full size, not a die cast.
It was, a real car. And it was almost like it was a tick off his bucket list. A car was for sale. They were doing a car boot sale out of the car, but the car had for sale on it as well. It was a RAV4.
Did he just exploit the Trade Descriptions Act and just say, for sale on that car, I'll take it?
Yeah. And he said, I've never bought a car at a car boot sale before. And I said, yes, not many people have, Dad. And he said, right, let's go and get some money off of it and let's get it. He bought it for my husband, actually. That car was a brilliant car. I actually saved my husband and my husband's son's life. They rolled it on black ice. And I think if they'd have been in any other car, they might not have survived or been very injured. But that car was a very strong car. But Dad was really pleased that he'd bought a car at a car boot sale.
Ticked off. I think I've tried to sell cars before and say someone wants it for their son, so the dad comes along with the son, and it's always like, okay, you can tell that he said to his son, like, stand back, watch this, and then they try and haggle and do stuff, and you just sort of say no.
Dad came with me to get my first car. I knew exactly what I wanted. When I was probably 15, I wanted a Nova SR. And Dad said to me, right, if I was working in a pub, at the weekends, and Dad said, if you save up half, I'll give you the other half. So I saved and saved. And at 16, I had that car on the drive ready.
Blimey. That's quite a punchy first car, isn't it?
Yeah, 1.3. I put a big bore 4-inch exhaust on it and a dimmer petrol cap and purple Go Faster stripes.
What colour is it?
It was silver, with big grey plastic bumpers. Oh, it was excellent car. But yes, so that was on the drive at 16, ready for me to drive when I was 17.
Wow. What happened to the Nova?
The Nova, well, it's funny you say that. We actually found the number plates when we were clearing out my dad's house. So he kept the number plates, B-Reg, and it went to the scrapyard.
Read the last rights. Yeah. Dad fixed it as much as he possibly could, but unfortunately it died.
Did he teach you to drive, or did you go with a driving instructor?
He taught me. He taught my sister as well, and I did have a driving instructor, which was his friend. So within 2 months and 2 days, I'd passed my test.
Wow.
And that's all I wanted to do was drive.
I'm the same, actually. As a child, kind of growing up, I'd always have dreams about driving when I was kind of 10 or 11 or whatever. That was it.
Yeah. And, I had dolls as a girl, but most of my toys were cars.
That's definitely Dad, isn't it? That's got to be Dad influence. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely Dad.
Yeah. That's really good.
Did you do your driving test in the Nova, or?
No, I didn't. But I did it in the driving instructor's car. But I passed and I went home. The driving instructor took me home, and I found, when we cleared my dad's house out, he kept everything, my dad, everything. And I found a note from me to my dad saying, Dad, I've passed. I'll be off out and I'll see you later. So the minute I passed, I was off out in the car. Unfortunately, I crashed it 9 days later.
Oh, no.
Pulling out of a junction. I lost all my dad's no claims.
Oh, no.
But my dad was so wonderful. He said to me, it doesn't matter. The car can be fixed, but dead people can't. So it doesn't matter.
That's a great slogan, isn't it?
And then Dad got it back on the road and off we went again.
He's probably secretly rubbing his hands together when he heard that it had a scrape, so he could actually get his hands dirty and sort it out.
Yeah.
My mum had a gold Mark II Astra 5-door, and I'm pretty sure the evening I passed my driving test, or within a couple of days, I went out in that. Yeah, I was working at an office block in the evening doing filing and stuff, and there was a multi-storey car park next to it, and I'd parked in that, and then that evening as I pulled out, I just dinked the front wing on this pillar, so I had to go back kind of tail between my legs and say, oh, I'm really sorry, I've dinked your front wing on your Mark II Astra.
Yeah, I felt terrible that I'd lost all his no claims, but like he said, it didn't matter as long as no one was hurt.
That's the main thing. Yeah. Was your dad? I assume he must be a very competent driver. Did he ever get into any scrapes or anything? No.
Well, later on in life, he was at the sports centre. My dad was a little bit sporty, and he'd done the London Marathon 4 times, and he was a keen runner as I was growing up, and he was at the sports centre probably, I don't know, must have been in late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, early 70s. And my husband was there with 2 of his children, and bumped into him and said, "Oh, hello, Brian." And Brian, I call him Brian because he was my friend as well as my dad. So I always called him Brian. And Brian said, "All right, cheerio." And off he went. And he backed his Volvo estate into another car while my husband and his children were watching, and lifted it off the floor and back down again and drove off. And he hadn't even noticed. My husband said he hadn't done any damage, just very slowly. He drove quite slowly. But yes, he'd lifted it up and dropped it back down again and drove off.
Another nod to the build quality of the Volvo, isn't it?
Yeah. But my sister was telling me before I was born, Dad had a Spitfire, and he used to love getting that up to 100.
Crikey. I bet you'd feel that, wouldn't you, when that was doing 100?
Yeah, in that. He had a Triumph Herald as well, but I wasn't born then. My sister just told me about that one. He had a couple of Lancias, and apparently a bright green Lancia with orange interior when I was born.
Wow. That's quite the colour scheme, isn't it? Did you come home from the hospital in that?
I don't know, but it could explain a lot.
You definitely got to keep spares if you got a Lancia, haven't you? You need a few of those to stick them back together again.
Yeah, you do. It was funny. My sister, she was telling me earlier. She said Dad had Lancias, and then she wrote to me in a text message. Anyway, all Lancias fell apart, as it was found that they were rust buckets and only really worked on hot countries with no rain. I said, "Oh my goodness, Nicola, you sound like your father." That's exactly what he would have said.
Spot on though, isn't it, in fairness?
Yeah. Rust buckets.
I think my brother had a Beta Coupe at one stage for a very short period. I think he had it, bought it for quite a lot of money at the time. I remember going out on it. It was a seriously fast car. And then, I never saw it again after that. So I'm not sure what happened.
He just started to sweep it off the drive with a dustpan and brush overnight.
Disintegrated.
More than likely, yeah. Rained one Wednesday evening and that was it.
It's dissolved.
Disappeared.
Yeah. Oh, Lancia's gone, yeah. Get the pressure washer out. What about smells? Any interesting smells in any of these cars, Sarah? Because we've had a few creep up, haven't we, Andy, that have been
bananas.
Oh yeah, I listened to some other podcasts. I listened to some other of your podcasts, and I noticed was it the Mark II Golf with the banana smell? No smells. Oil. Yeah. Oil was a prominent smell around my youth. But that was it. No smells really.
If it doesn't smell of oil, something's not right, probably.
Yeah, or WD-40.
Any car washing tips from your father? We had one that's not gone out yet, Mark's, which we've recorded. His nan used to use Pledge to polish her car.
Really? Only Fairy Liquid. Yeah, which actually I still do. I still use a bit of Fairy Liquid. I know. I must get some proper car washing stuff.
You can't use that. Not on all the cars that you mentioned, surely.
I know.
Oh, this isn't
I
good.
did use a bit of Fairy Liquid the other day on my Mini Clubman.
Wow.
But it was just to get the dust off.
John, you did a stint with a car cleaning company, didn't you?
Yeah. So I'm not like a car cleaning sort of Nazi or anything like that, but I sort of understand like the processes and what not to do. So yeah, when people say they've got some sort of quite interesting and expensive cars and they're doing that to it, I do kind of think, You wouldn't do that to your show car, though, would you? What are you going to do with the show car? No.
No, I won't do that. I promise you, John, I won't do that. I'll buy some real car cleaning kits.
Okay. I do think it's interesting, though, that like engineers, they're not interested in cleaning cars.
No.
Or like doing it properly. They'll happily just use, fairy liquid or gravel in a bucket.
Yeah. I can't remember Dad's cars ever being spotless or really shiny and clean. No.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I've said it before. I find it strange that people are so fascinated by doing it the right way. And yeah, you put micro scratches in the paintwork, but who cares really? I mean, yeah, the sun shines on it and it does look swirly and stuff. And to be fair, if you've got a black car and you took it to a show and it looked swirly, then yeah, maybe then you might sort of think, oh, I need to do something about that. But yeah, it's one of those weird things, isn't it? It's a lump of metal.
Yeah.
And...
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had the Cayman S ceramic, which is really nice because you literally can wash it off, spray it, and dry it.
Yeah.
It's great.
We used to get people that they just wouldn't wash their car at all because they were scared of doing it the wrong way. So then the car would come and it would be like, oh, it hasn't been washed for 3 years. Oh, great.
It might protect it, though.
Exactly,
They might think that the dirt protects the paintwork.
Yeah. What's all that rust down there? Oh, that's good. Good to tick off the car washing. So would he do it on the driveway, I'm assuming, in the old fairy liquid? And
Yeah, but only if it was needed. Only if it was muddy. He wouldn't. It wasn't a case of every Saturday or Sunday clean the car. It was more of every Saturday or Sunday fix the car. Something always went wrong with it.
So do you spend a lot of time in unnamed motoring accessories shops purchasing stuff to fix said vehicles? Was that kind of a quick, we've got to rush out and buy X, Y, and Z?
Yes. Unnamed, but smaller ones on small industrial estates.
Yeah.
He was familiar with the people that ran it. Yeah. Because they always had it on the shelf as well. They'd always have the bits he wanted on the shelf. So he liked that.
It's because they knew his car was going to break.
Yeah, probably. Oh, it's Brian again.
Set your watch by him. He's bought brake discs today. So, he'll be back next week for springs.
Yeah. Yeah, he was always, Saturday mornings. I think they opened only Saturday mornings. They're shut at lunchtime. So we'd have to go down there and get parts.
Join the queue and probably get a free coffee in the waiting room or something while you're waiting. And then...
Oh, there was no waiting room. It was like a shed, a metal shed. You'd walk in and everything would be on the shelves. It's still going, actually, that particular shop. And it still looks the same as well. And they still have a lot of parts.
That's good. Did you go to scrapyards with him? I used to love a scrapyard.
Yeah, I still do. Not with him, but I still love a scrapyard. Yeah, I still do car boot sales because often we find new old stock in boxes at car boot sales for random cars. And, at stupid prices. So we pick those up and then obviously they just go in the garage. And never to be seen again.
Yeah. Scrapyards used to be so great, didn't they? Kind of going back a little bit, because obviously the stuff that was in there would be 80s, 70s, whatever. Yeah. I guess now it's all a bit newer, which is a bit of a shame.
They stopped you climbing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 cars high, climbing up just to... What interior is in that Golf at the top? Oh, I'll have a look.
I always remember just sort of going to the parts place in the mornings. I remember when I used to go with my dad to, if his car had been in the garage to whatever it was having done, when I'd go with him to collect it, I used to love going in the little reception area. It always used to smell of, because they had like a spray shop next to this garage as well. So I'd always have something quite nice on the ramps in there. So you sort of peer through the glass and the smell of it was really nice. Probably shouldn't be sniffing that stuff. That was good all the same.
Yeah, you've just reminded me of when Dad's cars always, when they needed an MOT, And we wouldn't use someone. At first, we weren't using someone local. We'd have to drive for about 30 minutes to see this guy. I'm not sure if he had a dodgy MOT book or something.
Sounds like it might have been slightly friendly, doesn't it?
Back in the 80s, yeah, we always went to see him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he had an MOT book.
Do you have a golden retriever and a white stick?
That's him.
Just look at the history of the car. It's just pass. No advisories.
Yeah. And then it was scrapped the week after. Something's not right here.
At least he wasn't selling them on afterwards. He was
No, he wasn't. Yeah. No, wasn't selling them on. We'd always keep them. At one point, we had 3 cars. I remember we had 2 Volvos. We had 3 Volvos, 1 on the drive and 2 across the road. We'd parked across the road.
Oh, you're one of those where you cars in the road.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, was there like a nice big garage or something? But no, just dotted down the street.
No, and you would never have got anything in the garage anyway. As a car, you would never have got a car in the garage. It was one of those, house was built in 1982, so the garage was fairly small, but it was full up with car bits, engines, motorbikes, bicycles. When he died, I think we found 25 bicycles in the garage.
Really? Wow.
Did he have any sort of filing system, or was he just literally open the door, throw the next thing in?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like when you cut a tree and you see the rings. It was like, the furthest bit back was like, from 82 and then forward was the latest stuff.
They're probably all on the Met's Most Wanted, aren't they? Like all these hidden bicycles that he secretly tucked away in the Lost and Found. I'll take that.
Yeah, probably.
Nice little rally there. I'll have that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to leave it. So
that's fantastic.
Without kind of going into a complete biography of your father, which sounds like it would be fascinating.
Yeah, he was a very interesting man. Yeah, if that's enough for you, that's great. I hope that's interesting enough for your listeners.
That's brilliant. Brian, if I can call him Brian.
Of course you can.
Sounds like one of the most interesting dads we've had. It certainly puts my dad's career as a news agent manager to shame. Maybe secretly when he said he was going to the pub, he was going off to MI6 or something, but I don't think he was.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know. But after he retired, we were sat in a cafe and a man was paying at the checkout area. And Dad said to me, that man over there is a policeman. And I said, is a policeman? And he said, no, he was a policeman. I said, oh, how do you know? He said, well, he was a local policeman around here. And I said, all right, how do you know? You worked in London. And he went, he came up and did a job for us once. And I said, what job? And he went, just a job. And I went, what job, Dad? And he went, just a job. And then the man walked past and he nodded at Dad and Dad nodded back.
Superb.
And I went, what was that? Dad went, we're just saying hello. Yeah, it's funny.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Sarah.
Very welcome. It's wonderful. Thanks for inviting me. And it's just wonderful to speak about my dad and his cars. And unfortunately, it's in my blood.
Oil in your veins.
Oil in my veins, yeah.
And no more fairy liquid, though. That's just my one request. Yeah.
No, okay. I promise.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Cheerio. Bye-bye. Cool.
That was a bit special, wasn't it?
Yeah, some great stories. Cue from James Bond, pretty much.
Yeah. I'd love to see that Mini.
What, his one or her one?
The one that he used from Scotland Yard, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. I think it's obviously quite emotional. It's not long since he's popped off, so obviously nice to talk about those old stories. But at the same time, yeah, it's not easy, is it? Obviously, it does get easier as time goes on, as me and you both know, but yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? But no, it's great to hear those stories.
Indeed. Cool. We should probably ask people to support us and give us a push, help us along. But apart from that, we'll wrap it up and roll the credits. Thanks for listening to My Dad's Car Podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please click subscribe, leave us a review and follow us on social media. If you'd like to support us further, you can buy us a coffee or sign up to give us a monthly bump start. You'll find details on our website, mydadscar.co.uk. Bye for now.